Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Language of Leadership. I am your host, Mark Iorio, and I've got with me today Werner Graf. Werner is the founder of the Graf Dairy Hero Foundation. Werner, great to have you on the program.
Absolute pleasure, Mark.
Great to have you, buddy.
Thanks.
This is fun. This is a lot of fun. I can't wait to talk about this. Talk a little bit about the lead up to the foundation, the Hero Foundation, because I mean, I think the story, we're friends, but I think the story is outstanding.
Well, thank you. It's I started collecting superhero memorabilia when I was 9 years old.
Yeah.
And from that time to now, I've amassed a collection which turned out to be quite large, quite unique. And fortunately, because of the movies, you know, and the new generations of fans for a lot of the superheroes, it's become quite valuable. So I was facing a dilemma of what to do with it.
Yeah.
And after 50 years, I could have pieced it out and, you know, sold it, and probably would have been the smart thing to do. But I realized that the reason I was collecting these things, you know, when you start as a kid, you like the fight scenes and you like the costumes and but the real reason over 50 years, and you know, this is a reoccurring theme with a lot of collectors, is they love the messages that were in the heroes.
Sure.
So if you think about what Stan Lee tried to accomplish, embedded in almost every one of his heroes in the 60s and 70s was a certain stoic or Christian virtue. All right? The Hulk was about controlling your anger. You know, the Fantastic Four was about family. You had, obviously, the tagline on Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility.
Right.
And you had Captain America with patriotism and doing the right thing. Thor was chivalry and are you worthy, service leadership.
Sure.
You know, Daredevil was blind justice. They had more subtle ones like Iron Man, where he was, you know, covered in iron, right? Big tough guy, but he had a bad heart.
Right.
And he also had personal flaws.
Yeah.
You know, he was a drunkard and, you know, low character. He had to overcome all that, but he was always putting this hard facade on. You know, so he's talking about improve yourself, you know, from the inside out type of thing.
Yeah.
So a lot of great messages, and those messages, I think, still have resonance today, and we're using the collection, we're using the superheroes as a hook.
Yeah.
But the end game is to get kids thinking about the stoic virtues and heroism.
So the opening for the foundation it's in Michigan City.
That's correct.
Right?
Yes.
Where you grew up, right?
It is. So I grew up in a small town called Michigan City. It's about 38,000 when I was growing up. It's about 32,000 now. It's a classic Midwestern, you know, somewhat blighted town.
Yeah.
When the malls set up near the highways, it drained all the retail from downtown. We lost a lot of iconic buildings. Manufacturing went overseas. But we're on a bit of a resurgence. And so this foundation is basically we're going to do three things. We're going to, like I said, use the superhero, the love of superheroes that these kids have as a gateway to getting them think about what it takes to be a hero, you know, how they want to conduct themselves.
Yeah.
The second thing is that the venue that we're setting up is going to benefit the community, because we are going to not only have opportunities for the kids to help us with the charity and therefore hit their service checkbox on college applications and so on. But there's all kinds of opportunities to work with the school system to support their 7 habits of character and other heroic activities that are in the community. And then the third thing is that the venue itself should, through its gate receipts, at least what we're hoping, is bring money into the community. And if we can do that, we're going to address some of the blight in the town.
So that's great. So why the dairy? What was the connection to Graf Dairy?
So my grandfather came off the boat from Germany back in the 20s, and he had a number of jobs before he decided that he wanted to open a dairy. And he had a dairy in Michigan City for about 15 years. And it was back in the days when there were multiple dairies. There might have been, 8, 9 dairies in Michigan City.
Right.
And towards the end, as dairies were consolidating, he sold his dairy routes and business to Shoal Dairy, which was the largest dairy in northern Indiana.
Okay.
And I recently bought the factory, the Shoal Dairy factory in Michigan City, where my grandfather worked as a foreman, and I'm in the process of renovating it. But the Graf Dairy Hero Foundation is an acknowledgement of my grandfather's hard work, patriotism. All he wanted to do was be a good American and to help build the community and make a living, and he did his part.
God bless him. That's great. All right, so heroes, when you look at heroes and you look at, we talk a lot about mentors on this program, Werner, where you emulate someone's behavior because you admire them. Our parents growing up. There are things that our parents did, that our grandparents did, that we admire. And a lot of times these kids, unfortunately, are looking to heroes or people in their lives, whether it's an influencer on social media, it's some sort of entertainer or an athlete or something. And they don't know who these people are. They don't know the character of these people. But talk a little bit about the fact that what you're looking to do is to get these young children, young kids, to emulate these superheroes, these heroes, right? And those values that they bring to the world.
Yeah, absolutely. You hit it right on the head, Mark. What I realized when I was making a decision to try to monetize and this collection, and we're going to talk about the collection a little bit later, but it's really kind of fun.
Yeah.
But the value that this collection can bring to the community is to counterbalance some of the negative influences that are happening in the culture right now and confusing the kids.
Sure.
Right? The kids aren't necessarily being taught what heroism is. Sometimes, like you said, there's role models out there, and because they have a lot of clicks or because they have, some type of trendy, thing online, all of a sudden they're idolized. And it's the same thing in past generations with stars,
Sure.
On TV and so on. You don't know the character of these people, you just know that they're popular.
Right.
And kids want to be popular. But kids also come out of the womb wanting to do good. It is the influences that, they encounter in the course of their lives which lead them to, getting away from that mentality.
Exactly.
And so, a lot of times now, for example, a kid might be taught that his identity, is heroism, and it's, or that even if you take a look at just recent events like a George Floyd, for example.
Sure.
Now, George Floyd was no model character, right? But he's got statues of him as being a hero because he was a victim of circumstance, and it was, certainly a tragedy. But is it heroism? What we really want to do is get the kids thinking about how you conduct yourself, get more along the lines of a, MLK. It's the content of your character that drives whether you're a hero or not.
Absolutely.
Do you stand up straight?
Yeah.
Do you have empathy? Do you defend individual rights, not only of yourself, but of other people?
Right.
Do you do what's right when the whole crowd is doing wrong, or maybe they're doing nothing at all?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So the responsibility, the accountability, the perseverance. So we want them to get back to the stoic virtues, to know that, look, and to your point on social media, it's heartbreaking to see some of these videos now. You can see two kids fighting, right? And you and I have talked. We all fought. If you're a boy growing up in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, you got into fights, right? Yeah. Some of them you win, some of them you lose. You learn through all of them. Later you go out with the guy to a bar that beats you up, and you have you drink and you laugh about the old times. But now you're seeing a different kind of, situation in a lot of the schools. The kids get an upper hand. One kid might even be unconscious, and the guy's still on top of him.
Yeah.
And the real heartbreaking thing is the rest of them are dancing around with the phones.
They're videotaping.
Yeah, thinking, how funny, that's just crazy, and all. But none of them are stepping up and say, whoa, stop, enough. If we can inspire one kid to think about it and say, look, and that's not the way to conduct yourself. That's not the way to act. This has gone too far. Put themselves into the breach. And that's a hard mentality to get into. So it takes, but it's not only good for the culture, because our culture needs to have leaders that can step into the breach, but it's good for the personal situation too. Kids that embrace leadership qualities, kids that embrace virtue, those are the kids that are going to succeed later in life. And so it's a self-perpetuating, thing for them also.
Yeah. Can you take us through the process of how you're, I mean, we can talk about this later because after the break, we've got some photographs to share. But, when you interact with these schools in Michigan City and the surrounding area, I would imagine, what are you looking to do? You get the kids to come into the foundation,
Yes.
right? What's the process like?
Yeah, so it's a symbiotic relationship with the school system. Obviously, the schools are a great influencer in and of themselves in terms of the content that goes in front of kids, right?
Sure.
It's also, getting back to the cultural drift, right? The cultural drift is to not exemplify, individual heroism. A lot of it's tamped down to it's all the good of the collective,
Right,
and
exactly.
so on. And so, the things that you're talking about, the virtues, those are things that are individually hard things to work on. They're individually elevating of the person that tries to adopt those things, that's fights against a more socialist type of mentality.
Yeah.
Right. So let's talk about the schools. So one of the things that we do with the schools is the schools have in Michigan City, they have 7 habits of character. All right. So we support those 7 habits of character by evangelizing those through our exhibit. And when we talk about the exhibit, I'll get into some of the ways that we do that. But we also have a symbiotic relationship with the schools in that as we bring in money to the charity, we're going to sponsor awards, for example, at the school system where if a teacher acknowledges some random act of kindness that a kid does, or some act of heroism, small or large, doing the right thing even when nobody else is looking, then they might end up getting a $25 gift certificate to a McDonald's or something to that effect. So we'll be sponsoring those type of awards to keep prompting that type of mentality and that type of presence of mind, so the kids are thinking about that, right?
Yeah.
Again, we have the charity opportunities for the kids to come in and help with the charity, conduct tours, and so on. We will have, it'll be $10 for people to get in, typically.
Yeah.
Field trips from the schools will be absolutely free.
Okay.
There'll be art opportunities. We have walls for the kids to do murals on. And in fact, at a recent show that we did at Lebesnick Center for the Arts in Michigan City, we partnered with the schools so that the kids would come in and they would develop a superhero, they'd draw it, and they would write a paragraph about the virtue that superhero embodies.
That's cool. That is very, very cool. All right, we're gonna have to take a break. Unfortunately, I could talk to you about this for hours, honestly.
It's fun stuff.
But after the break, we're gonna come back. I want to ask you a question about after the break. We'll talk about the values that you see in the Midwest versus what you see here on the East Coast.
Oh, sure.
But then we've got some photographs and everything to share with the audience.
Fantastic.
Folks, we'll be right back after this message from our sponsors. Don't go away. We've got more with Werner Graf after this message from our sponsors.
A tale is told of a star that fell in the days when men were hair-covered brutes roaming the earth. This shard of celestial steel was unlike anything early man had ever encountered. And from those 5 fortuitous stainless steel blades came the world's first smooth, silky shave. And it was in that moment manliness burst into existence. This blade charged forward through the ages of steel and dragonfire. Great conquerors slew tyrants. Founding fathers revolted. And as men's manes were tamed, so they tamed the wild frontier. Also, Steve used it to get a good shave, and he's a pretty solid guy. But as power often breeds enemies, so a wild-bearded philosopher despised the blade for its glorious manly freedom. This enemy of clean shaves bore the razor to a fiery peak and cast it in. The blade was gone. A dark age of unmanliness ensued, an age of men wearing buns, drinking vegan milkshakes, and wearing really tight pants and acting like a bunch of crybaby commies. Until one day, the great archaeologist and CEO Jeremy Boring went on a dangerous quest on which many before had perished. Through seas, mountains, and deepest catacombs, he found the blade still sharp as starlight. His mission was to restore the blade to mankind and thereby restore manliness.
Will my razor make you as manly as the actual greatest men in all of human history? I guarantee it will. In the most emphatic way that isn't legally binding. Hey, at least you'll be as manly as Steve.
Jeremy's razors. Carve out your legacy.
Thanks for getting these sub bowls.
Of course, no problem, big bro. Let's eat.
Danny DeVito? What did you do with our uncle?
Well, that doesn't matter. This is a commercial for Jersey Mike's. What matters most are these sub bowls.
Wait, has Danny DeVito been my brother my whole life?
I guess so. Don't tell Mom. Your favorite sub, hot or cold in a bowl. It's a Jersey Mike's thing. A sub above.
Let's go to our next segment, Fairest Calls, inspired by Geico's fair and fast 24/7 claim service.
Do we have to do the Geico stuff while I'm here?
Yep, we do. Let's play the clip.
Holding, number 53, 10-yard penalty.
This literally happens every game. Can we just skip to the action?
Nope, nothing but fair and fast claims, just like Geico. Here's the next clip.
But I don't want to play the clip.
Pass interference, number 34.
Wow, doesn't get any fairer than this, boys.
For savings and service, get more with Geico.
Welcome back to Language of Leadership. I am your host, Mark Iorio, and I've got Werner Graf with me today. Werner is the founder of the Graf Dairy Hero Foundation in Michigan City, Indiana. Fun stuff, man. This is cool, but you know, I keep thinking Midwest values, right? And here we are on the East Coast, and you've got this hero foundation, the Graf Dairy Hero Foundation in the Midwest. And I wonder, you know, I'm not being cynical here. I'm just wondering whether or not this would work elsewhere, because it's such a great idea, you know. But what are the values like there? What do you see there? I mean, you have two young daughters, right?
I do, yeah.
In on the East Coast, they went to school here.
Yes.
In New Jersey, and probably a little different than you see in the Midwest, right? Or
Well,
not?
I think so. You know, I have a unique background in that I had one leg in the Midwest and one leg in New Jersey, you know, all growing up. My father came out to New Jersey and Atlantic City. He was stationed there in the Navy.
Yeah.
And that's where he met my mom. She's from Hamilton, down south. And so all of my summers I spent on the shore. And there is a cultural difference, you know. The folks, if I had to just generalize, and it's hard to generalize because there's great people everywhere, you know,
sure,
and there's bums everywhere too. So, but in Indiana, I think there's a lot more ease of life, right? First of all, you're not stacked on top of each other, you know. So, you know, I grew up, like I said, a city of 32,000, but it's not like New Jersey where, you know, it's one string of neighborhoods and strip malls from Philly to New York. You know, it's like the 32,000, you know, person town, and then you got 15 miles of farmland before you hit the next town, and that's, you know, 10,000, you know, and then so on.
Yeah.
You know, we had South Bend, the big city, you know, 110,000 over, you know. So you're not, and that drives a different dynamic in the way people operate. You know, time isn't as a high commodity value, you know, in Michigan City, Indiana, and people are more easygoing, and I think like generally there's less honking, you know, on the roads and so on. You get to, and we have our, you know, we have our sophistication. Chicago's a world-class town. You know, even South Bend, Notre Dame, you can go see world-class artwork and shows and everything else, and all the buildings are manicured. It's beautiful. But there's a level of sophistication on the East Coast, but there's also a level of angst. And I think there's also a level of, you know, growing up, I noticed in the culture of like the lifeguards and so on, that all these kids from Philly and New Jersey, there's a lot of angling, you know, there's a lot of like maneuvering type of
Right.
stuff. I didn't encounter much of that in Indiana. You know,
yeah,
it
of
wasn't that kind of mentality. But but you know, in New Jersey, it's a get it done type attitude too. Like I said, time is of more value, I think, in in a high paced side. So I hopefully I got the best of both worlds, and I leave the the negatives of both worlds behind. So that's what we try.
So the collection is unbelievable. I mean, when you and I first started talking about this years ago, I was blown away by the level of the collection that you've had or have accumulated over 50 years. Talk a little bit about that, and then we'll show some photographs up here of what you've got.
Well, this is why we think the charity has legs, and the business model is yet to be validated because we open in May.
Okay.
All right, but we did have a showing at the Lebesnick Center for the Arts, as I mentioned, in Michigan City, and we broke attendance records there because I think the kids just love to see this. So what we have in the collection is we have the legacy collection from my youth, which are comic books and toys from the 60s and the 70s.
Okay.
And a lot of these toys have turned out to be quite rare and quite valuable. We have a bunch. A big piece of the collection is what I've collected over eBay since eBay was founded.
Okay.
I stopped collecting for about 20 years.
Yeah.
When eBay came up, I was like, oh, I always wanted that toy when I was little. I'm just going to pick it up. And then it's like a gateway drug, I like, oh, I want that toy, and all this, and you end up with all these toys in the basement and boxes, but the toys are unopened, and some of them, like I said, are very rare. I have a train in 1967. Marx, the Japanese tin company, made a number of Marvel toys, and they made a train which was the first appearance of a lot of the first merchandising of a lot of characters that were in the comic books. It was only 3 years after many of the characters were even developed, right?
Yeah.
Ward Kimball, who was the head animator at Disney, was a big train collector.
Okay.
The reason Walt Disney has trains around Disney World and Disneyland is because he went over in Anaheim to Ward Kimball's house for a birthday party for one of his kids, and Ward Kimball had a train around his backyard.
Oh my God.
So all the kids are clamoring to get on the train, and
Sure.
Disney saw that and said, "Hey, that's
gonna work."
Yeah, we're gonna do that. We can get people from one side of the park to the other, and all that." And so he collected trains. When he died and his estate went on auction, I bought the Marvel train, which is pristine in its box. So first of all, it's got a backstory because it's from the Ward Kimball collection.
Yeah.
But it's one of the rarest toys out there with the first appearance of many Marvel characters. And so things worth about $20,000 now because it's absolutely pristine, and none of these things lasted. They were paper thin.
They were thin.
The kids beat them up, the boxes went in the trash, so this is one of a handful of these trains that have the box with it, and that's unplayed with, and then of course it's from Ward Kimball's collection.
Wow.
We have about 20 statues of.
Let's go
Oh,
up.
yeah,
Let's start looking at some of this stuff. It's
right.
pretty interesting. So what do we have here?
All right. Well, so just for benefit of example, the Marvel had a bunch of vinyl plastic pillows in the 1960s. So we have the most comprehensive collection because I think we have all of them but one. There's only a couple of collectors that may have this other. But there's a total of maybe 12 or 14 of these plastic pillows.
Mm-hmm.
Not only do we have the plastic pillows that were sold through the books, but we have three of the salesman's sample pillows, which were double the size.
Okay.
All right. So a lot of collectors might have the plastic pillows. They were sold. You could only send away for them in the comic book off of one of the pages, the coupon page.
Yeah.
But we have the actual salesman samples for the three of them, which are double the size of the other ones. As I mentioned, we have a lot of statues. The statues are, and I got this idea from the Great River Road Museum in outside of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I've spent 20 years in New Orleans. Love my Bayou brothers down there. I went to the opening of the Great River Road Museum, which is right on the Mississippi. It's at Homus House Plantation. A gentleman named Kevin Kelly has put together this spectacular thing, and he's got under glass priceless, historical artifacts.
Yeah.
He's got, one of the only flags that flew at a certain time in the United States. It's oversized, it's priceless, right? He was offered, when one of the wax museums in New Orleans went out of business during COVID, he was offered to take a lot of the wax figures from the, that had New Orleans type of flair to it. They were selling the ones like Michael Jackson that they could get money for.
Yeah.
But for things like, the Battle of 1812 and Huey Long and so on, nobody wanted to buy those, right?
Yeah.
So he ended up getting these things, and he parsed these things out in his museum.
Yeah.
So I went to the opening, and you've got, this grand debutante for these, priceless historical artifacts. The governor's walking around and, champagne being served and everything else. And where all the selfies were? Everybody was taking a selfie with Huey P. Long. Everybody was taking a selfie with Andrew Jackson. All this priceless stuff under glass, and they were with doing their social media. And so what I realized is that, and it turned out that way for the Lebesnick exhibit, is that these statues, everybody wants to take a picture in front of the statue.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we have 20 life-size statues. We have a 13-foot Hulk statue that was in the AMC Theater in Hollywood for the Avengers movie.
Yeah.
So we've got, and the rest of them come from the Philippines that we've had specifically made for our exhibit. And the kids can go around and take selfies, and they love it. They're always posing in front of it. So on some of them that you saw on the loop, and I apologize, the thing's off right now, but I want to bring one particular one as an example of what we're trying to accomplish. We have a life-size 6'2" statue of Captain America. It's magnificent.
Yeah.
All right. Kids are automatically drawn to it. Behind the Captain America statue, we have a 5-foot by 7-foot laminated copy of the Declaration of Independence. All right. When the kids are taking selfies with Captain America, the plaque and the QR code that's going to go along with that exhibit is not going to say anything about Captain America. It's going to talk about how that legitimate piece of art, the Declaration of Independence, hung at City Hall in Philadelphia from '58 to 1992 when they renovated it. And I ended up buying it on auction. Never knew what I was going to do with it. I just loved it. And it was a gift from A&P Supermarkets to the city of Philadelphia. In their wisdom, when they renovated the City Hall, apparently this was, didn't make the cut.
Wow.
So bought it from a picker, and it's a magnificent, beautiful piece of work.
Wow.
So we're going to have 2 pinball machines on either side of Captain America.
Yeah.
Both of them manufactured in 1976 for the bicentennial.
Yeah.
Of course, we have the 250th anniversary of our country's founding coming up.
Yeah.
And so the kids will be able to play on the Liberty Bell pinball machine or the Freedom pinball machine on either side, Declaration of Independence in the back. And when they read, about the Captain America statue, it's not really going to be about Captain America. It's going to be about Declaration of Independence in Philadelphia, signed by, all of the patriots of the time, Ben Franklin and so on. There'll be words on General Washington. There'll be information on the pinball machines and what they represent, the Liberty Bell and so on. And so like I said, we use the superhero love as a gateway drug. They come in, they're getting infused with patriotism, with history,
That is
and
very,
all
very
kinds of
exciting.
positive pride,
Yeah.
for our country.
A lot of heroism there too, and my dad is 89 years old. You know my dad, right? So he has said a number of times that he would love to have kids who graduate from high school go to a 2-year stint in the military, but learn about the history of the United States of America. Because I think that's one of the things that's really lacking. And what you've done with this exhibit is to bring kids back to that, Werner, which I think is amazing.
It's a great point. Sometimes it's being taught. And I went through this with my girls. And listen, my girls got a fantastic education. I'll say that when my oldest daughter, we talked about her, went to Santa Clara, she's 4.0 in biochem. All right, you don't get to be a 4.0 in biochem without being a serious student, first of all, and credit to her. But she also had the foundation laid by the Hopewell Valley School System, so credit to them. But I can't tell you how many times I had to call into the Hopewell Valley School System looking at the material that was coming back on the social studies side and saying, this country is not all about negativity. It's not all about oppression. It's not all about racism.
Yep.
This is a country of achievement, a country of that was founded on the concept that every person, gets their rights from God and not a government.
Yep.
This is a country that's founded on the, and look, have we lived up to it every minute of the day? No. But we're always going after that North Star, making sure that everybody has equality of opportunity and so on.
Yeah.
And it's a crime for the school system not to evangelize the exceptionalism of this country and what people went through to get it to the point that it is. So I'm very proud of this country. We exude pride in this exhibit of culture, country, and community. And hopefully the kids get some of that as a counterbalance to anything that they're learning opposite to that in the school systems.
Love that. That just it's music to my ears, man. I love it. So the exhibit opens in May 23rd.
May 23rd. It's Memorial Day weekend.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about that. What's the experience going to be like?
Well, like I said, it's an odd.
My wife wants to fly out.
Oh, and you're going to be invited, absolutely. Okay. Make the trip. Michigan City, I'll tell you what, Michigan City is right up on Lake Michigan. Okay. There is no reason that this can't be, and it is going to be. I can tell you, Michigan City is on the ascent. It's 50 miles from downtown Chicago. You got South Bend on the other side of it. It's right on Lake Michigan. It's primed for great things, which is why one of the things that we want to contribute to its ascent. Yeah. That said, so come on out.
Okay.
It's a unique, eclectic venue. I've never seen anything like it. All right. I'm proud of the concept. Like I said, it's yet to be validated, but it's going to be a combination arcade. Mm-hmm. And the arcade games are going to be all retro. I mean, they're part of the collection. Mm-hmm. All right, we'll have the first Spider-Man pinball machine, which was a 1980 Gottlieb. We'll have the first Marvel superhero machine, which was a 1978 Hulk machine.
All working.
All pristine condition. Okay. These are part of the collection that I've donated to the charity. We will have the first 6-player pinball machine, which is a $6 million man machine. It's a Marvel heavy exhibit, but it's about heroism, really,
sure,
right?
Yeah.
We'll have the first superhero pinball machine, which was a 77 oversized Atari Superman machine. Okay. We'll have 4 video games that were the first superhero video games, Marvel versus Capcom, the old Spider-Man video game. These are all early 1990s. And then the first Batman driving game, which is it's just a beautiful machine. All right, so it's it's one part arcade, just like you go to the boardwalk. You're going to have the statues there for the selfies. So it's kind of like a Marie Tussauds wax museum, type of thing. And if folks saw the monitor, the kids posing in front of the statues. I mean, I brought my board members in. I have two local women who are. I've got a world-class board, by the way. We have a former CEO of Marvel Entertainment on our board.
Wow.
We've got 4 of the most prominent collectors, including authors of the great artists in the Silver and Bronze Age of comic books. We've got local entrepreneurs and corporate executives, and we've just got a great blend, and my board has been fantastic. But we have 2 lady board members in Michigan City, very successful businesswomen. So I bring them in. I say, I got to figure out a way to keep the kids from climbing on these statues, because these statues are very expensive,
sure.
and you can bust them up. I mean, they're acrylic over plaster. They're very intricate statues, and have them shipped from the Philippines and everything. And I bring them in, and the first thing they do is start kissing the Spider-Man statue. I was like, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Trying to get the kids off it, and the adults are climbing on it, So the statues, that's great, and that'll drive a lot of our social media. But we have over 300 toys. It's a legitimate toy museum from the 1960s and 70s, like the train I was talking about, like the vinyl pillows. Yeah. A lot of it has to do with the business side of it. So not only do we have the toy, but we'll have the advertisement that went with the toy. We'll have the sales kit that the salesman brought to a store and said, hey, you ought to stock this toy, because it's going to be a big one. We'll have a little background on the toy companies, that did it, and the deals that Marvel made with them. So it's a legitimate toy museum. We'll have over $500,000 of comic book art.
Wow.
So that's going to be, it's a legitimate art gallery. Yeah. These are classic artists, John Romita, Jack Kirby of the Silver and Bronze era of comic books. We're going to have 180 posters. Wow. Many of them very, very rare. Some of these posters are a couple $1,000s a piece. Posters not only that you would buy in a store, but ones that you could only send away for, and then other ones that are point-of-sale posters. We have a huge, it's a 4-foot by 6-foot Batman poster. Back in 1966, the grocery stores would stick it in the window as a Batman dairy promotion to buy All-Star Dairy products, and you could join the Batman Headquarters Club. So there's only 3 of them out there. That's going to be in there.
That's great.
We have a theater. We're going to be looping the 60s and 70s very wholesome superhero cartoons and shows. We'll have the the '66 Batman series, which was a work of comedic genius from Adam West. We have the '67 Spider-Man cartoon, which won awards for its jazz soundtrack. All those things will be looped. On that '67 Spider-Man cartoon, just as a side note, those things were those cartoons, like everything else, was on 16 millimeter film. Okay. All right, and so back in the day, when everything wasn't digitized, what they would do is they would project onto a screen in the television station, the video, and then they would televise the projection of the video that they were playing, right, the film. And we have all 52 episodes in the 16 millimeter cans that we got from an old TV station that was being scuttered for the '67 cartoon. Wow. So, and then there's going to be a room called the Vault. And the Vault is going to have the very high-end stuff, artist proofs of sculptures. We have a comic book worth over $1 million. We have that train that'll be in the Vault, so that'll be a special tour room and so on. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
That's great. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, I can't wait to get you out there.
Thanks for being here.
Absolute pleasure, Mark.
Great. Why don't you tell everyone how to get in touch with you and the Graf Dairy Hero Foundation.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much. If you'd like to help us get this exhibit established and get the charity rolling, the model is to be self-perpetuating. We're not going to be looking for grants a couple of years from now. We're hoping the gate receipts, you fund all the good work that we're doing. But right now, we have capital costs to get this thing up and running. If you'd like to help, we'd love to have your help. And you can reach me directly at WHGRAF, the number 2, @gmail.com, or go directly to our website, grafdairyherofoundation.com, and you can contribute there. So thank you very much, Mark. Thank you.
Werner, thanks. It's awesome stuff.
Pleasure.
All right. Folks, that's a wrap for Language of Leadership. This is amazing. Great work by Werner and his incredible board. I've known Werner a long time, and this is great. Hopefully, this will be a blueprint for the rest of the country. So, folks, look him up, Werner Graf. It's been a great pleasure to have you and Werner on the show. Have a great week, everyone. We'll see you next time.